Hello Repony, my name is Hawk Nightwing, the most unapologetic defender of G5 you'll ever meet, and we are back again with me reviewing something non-MLP related. This won't be a recurring thing, I promise. But yes, after I promised that I would not review Wildmains due to the fact I was not interested in it, I finally decided to review it because... reasons. I'm gonna be honest here, I really should stop saying I'm not gonna see something because 9 times out of 10, my curiosity always gets the best of me. In this case, oh boy, has the show taken what limited fandom we have left by storm. For those not in the know, Wildmains is a 2D animated web series produced by Jakks Pacific, about a group of horse besties doing real kid things in a horse-filled world. Essentially, it's like the basic premise of MLP, but with horses this time instead of ponies. Cool. Now, I've seen reactions to the first episode from all sides of the spectrum. From bad, to good, to mid, to cataclysmically abysmal. What do I think of it? Well, before I get to that, I want to take a moment to discuss the bizarre traction this show has been getting, and particularly how it's been treated by some fans. I haven't seen too much of this discourse to be fair, but there are a good amount of people treating this like the second coming of Christ. Like, oh, heaven be praised, this show is here to save us from that horrible G5. Or, this show is so much better than Tell Your Tale, you G5 stans suck, lol. And I'm gonna be honest here, I don't think that show deserves that kind of treatment. Not just because of reasons you'll soon see, but because trying to unfairly put a show on a holy pedestal solely despite another show is by far one of the worst things you can do. It's unfair and disrespectful to both creators who are not affiliated with one another in the slightest. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of G5 and therefore I'm actually sane, but I'm saying that because both shows deserve to be judged on their own merits regardless of any surface level similarity. The only similarities Wildmains has to Tell Your Tale right now are equine main characters, a 5-minute runtime, and a modern setting. Are some comparisons inevitable? Of course they are, and even I'm not above comparing them when necessary. But if your only reason for watching Wildmains is solely despite G5 and its creators, you seriously need a reality check. It's like, geez, remember when we as a community actually liked MLP? Yeah, I remember those days. Jakks Pacific has no affiliation with Hasbro. They were inspired by MLP when making this show, nothing more. Both shows set to accomplish different things, tell completely separate stories, and convey new lessons. In short, they have very few similarities to each other, and they should be judged as independently as possible for a fair analysis. This show was not made to capitalize on G5's supposed failure, and I frankly find that notion to be rather ridiculous. Leave any G5 hate you may have at the door. This is the wrong channel for that. Sweet! Now that I got that out of the way, and probably angered most of you, what do I actually think of Wildmains? Well, at the time of recording this, Thursday, July 18th, Episode 2 has not come out and I've only seen Episode 1. I plan to review both episodes back to back and release this video as a double review, so by the time you're watching this, it is probably going to be either Friday night or Saturday night, I don't know. Well, nothing else to do but jump right in and talk about Episode 1, Heard It Wrong. It was a bit weird. Look, I know what you're thinking, I don't blame you. I hate being negative 2 times in a row as much as you guys probably are. But if you want my honest thoughts, I don't think this was the best first impression. Like, I guess you can call this a solid pilot that introduces the characters and stuff. There are a few things to like, but this really feels like a premise that should have been saved for either the middle of the show or even end. As is, it's a very awkward and rushed start to the series, with a pretty botched execution in my opinion. The basic premise is that one of our leads, Cherry, is allegedly leaving town. Emphasis on allegedly. And this throws our main character Coco into a frenzy. She informs her friends and they go to stop Cherry from leaving, only to find out that she wasn't leaving at all. In fact, she was just going to take out a macaron order and go to the market. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense, especially if you pay attention to how Cherry worded the call to begin with. If she didn't want Coco to thinking she was leaving town, maybe she shouldn't have used words like packed up and change of scenery for something so minor as a simple market trip. Like, what did she think was going to happen? I also don't think the conflict was conveyed in the best way. I mean, instead of there being some deep emotional reason for Coco being so concerned and the reason to investigate this conflict, there's just a vague and general sense of, I don't want her to go. And this carries over to her friends. There's a lot of emphasis placed on what Cherry does for the town, instead of her as her own person, or horse in this case. Man, just saying that instead of pony is so weird. The writer should have more so emphasized what Cherry means to the group and how much they value her as a friend. The conflict isn't allowed to have the weight it deserves because every time the characters are sad, it's played for a joke. For example, Candy instantly goes from being sad and crying to immediately booting up her phone and live streaming this personal situation to her viewers, all within the span of a few seconds. And like other people have said, Coco acknowledging the fact that she might be jumping to conclusions doesn't make the fact that she does it anyway okay. She just gets her friends riled up for no reason and doesn't think twice that she should talk to Cherry. I get it's in service of the overall message, but when you make a character this self-aware that she should be doing something else entirely, you don't really have good excuse to have her do it anyway. In this case, she only grabs onto the idiot ball because if she didn't, the episode would be over in less than 2 minutes. I also feel like we should have seen our characters actually meet each other first before we get an episode about one of them potentially leaving town. I mean, we're meant to care for the characters here, but it's only the first episode. As for the message itself, I actually like it. I really do. It's meant to be a commentary and not jumping to conclusions with little to no context, and getting the full story. There is a message conveyed here, and there is a payoff. If you divorce the moral from how weird the execution of the story was, it's a pretty good message to teach kids, and a solid educational foundation for the series. It also ends in a very wholesome way. There clearly was an attempt to teach something positive towards younger audiences, and I can certainly appreciate that, even if the quality of the storytelling was kinda eh. Another positive I can give the episode is the overall structure of the narrative. The non-linear form of storytelling that the episode employs is very creative, and helps it stand apart from its contemporaries. I love the fact that we started on this tense situation. We have no idea what's going on, and we want to find out more. That's when Coco suddenly skids to a halt, and sort of breaks the fourth wall in order to convey just what exactly led up to all this. And then we follow the events all the way up to where we left off, and that was a really intriguing creative flourish on the part of the writers. If the remainder of the episode is just as creative as this opening, then I'm sure I'll be much more positive on it. The characters are also generally likable, despite them feeling very one-note and samey, which I call a compliment criticism. It's both. I'm not really sure how I feel about them just yet. For now, they just feel like they're defined by a single trait and nothing else. Like, Coco is a chef, Bailey is a surfer gal, Cherry is also a chef, Candy's an influencer, you get the idea. None of these horses feel like they have anything to them beyond the surface level just yet, but I do like them well enough. They're likable, they're charming, I'm just not attached to them yet. So until we get to see more, I'll take it. Overall, despite the message and unique narrative being definitive highlights, the episode just feels very flawed, like a first draft script. They had something here, and it feels like with a little refinement, Heard It Wrong could have easily been a solid pilot. But as is, the characters feel very one-note, the story is weirdly conveyed, the reveal doesn't really add up, and it feels like a premise that should have been saved for once we get to know the characters more. I don't know what they're like as a group of friends, nor why they care for each other, so having this be the very first episode we get feels like a very misguided decision. Then again, it's only the first episode, and there's nowhere to go but up. So let's see what episode 2 has in store.
One day later.
Alright, I'm back. And I'm not kidding when I say this, but episode 2, titled The Main Machine, is definitely an improvement over its predecessor. For one, the story is more exciting and not infuriating, we actually get to see what the characters are like as a group more, and I actually feel like I know them a lot better. It's not perfect, but I did actually prefer this episode. The main premise is very simple. Our main characters are having a makeover at Perla's clubhouse when their main Hammer 3000 robot suddenly goes on a killing spree, so it's up to our intrepid horses to put a stop to it once and for all. Once again, everything I liked from the first episode is here. We got the non-linear storytelling creative flourish, and our core protagonists remain as likable as ever, though they have also been stepped up in my view. Here, like I said, we actually get to see what exactly their friendship is like, how they play off one another, and them just having a good time. The stylish way Perla's introduced, the adorable way Coco just eats the cucumbers during her spa treatment, Cherry having her mane done, all this is a very wholesome atmosphere, and it really helped me warm up to them a lot more. This little scene felt a lot more sincere and something straight out of a classic LMP episode. The plot is also more engaging too. I was much more into the robot shenanigans and seeing our characters live life than I was with the cheap friend moving away conflict. The robot going rogue was neatly foreshadowed beforehand through Coco's subtle fourth wall breaks, and once it finally does go rogue, you get this feeling of, oh dear, what do we do now? The episode had effective tension once it finally did go on the loose, and I was all here for it. The robot being out of control, messing everything up, and our characters finding ways to stop it. That was a great way to start and end the episode, and it was an effective source of comedy. It feels like we have now finally settled into this world, and now we're just seeing our characters in their day-to-day adventures. And for what it was, the episode was fun and a good slice of life story with unique conflict. If I was to nitpick anything, the robot was defeated a little too easily in my opinion. Like, why not have our characters team up and take it down together? Or better yet, actually find a way to shut it down instead of just dunking it in water. That's how I thought the episode was going to end anyway. I mean, I can't imagine how long it took Perla to actually build this contraption. You'd think she'd actually want to fix it, right? In fairness though, it does lead to an interesting final tease for future episodes. That being, the robot is alive, and it is still angry. Oh boy. What a way to end this episode. Whether or not that leads to anything remains to be seen, but I'm for sure intrigued. Overall, while this episode didn't have a message like the last one, it was still a very good episode regardless. It definitely feels like Wild Mains is starting to figure out just what exactly it wants to be with these first few episodes. And for what it wants to be, yeah, I enjoy it. I will say that in general terms, this feels like a very safe show. I'm more so leaning towards it being a mixed bag overall, but that second episode was so much better that I'm willing to slightly amend my overall ruling to be more lenient, as it does feel like the series is getting better the more it progresses. There definitely is potential for more interesting stories that combine engaging premises like Main Machine with good lessons like Heard It Wrong. Right now, though, I'm confident in saying that while Wild Mains is a good show, it is not a great show, at least not yet. It doesn't want to take risks or have deeper layers to its storytelling beyond playing around with the order of events. There's no emotional depth here nor themes that really resonate with me. And while I may have warmed up to them, I don't really feel attached to the characters yet like I do with G5 and Entire Tale. And while that show, despite its occasional missteps, is really going places with its second season, I can't imagine Wildmanes ever replicating that same success unless it takes a page out of Entire Tale's book and actually plays around with more complex scenarios. It needs to have episodes that challenge the characters in interesting ways and have them learn something meaningful from those experiences. It needs to let the sincerity linger and have deeper development for our main cast. As is, the writers are really playing it safe and inoffensive with the stories, and while some may see that as enough, I want to see more consistent and better quality before I officially consider myself a die-hard fan. Still, this was a decent start for Wildmanes, and I'll continue to track its progress because, like I mentioned before, I absolutely see great potential here. They just gotta commit to it. But what do you guys think of Wildmanes? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you are new here and you want to see more, then feel free to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to be updated on future content. We analysts appear to be a dying breed in the community as mindless hate videos are all the rage, so your contributions make a huge difference in helping me grow. Until next time, this is Hawk Nightwing signing out. Hoof.